I wish more business owners knew that fear simply exposes what matters most to you. So if you fear selling, perception matters more to you than serving. And the simple way to overcome this is to think less about yourself when you're selling. This is about to be a doozy. Selling creates this visceral reaction in so many business owners. I mean, I have seen business owners do the craziest things to avoid selling. They'll spend countless hours, tons of money on any part of their business just simply in an attempt to avoid selling, so that they don't have to get on camera, they don't have to get on a sales call, they don't have to write the funnel, ask for the sale, ask for the job. They'll do anything to avoid it. There is such a deep fear connected to selling. I've seen it time and time again, being in business for, like 8 years now. And what I've come to realize is the reason for this is that selling exposes. In order to sell, you have to be seen. You have to speak. So if you are afraid of what people think of you, then selling is going to feel deeply intimidating. There's no wonder you want to avoid it. I personally used to be so terrified of selling that I spent $20,000 just to avoid it. Yeah, I was that girl. It is May 2019, and I just lost tens of thousands of dollars. I'm on my couch in my townhome, crying for days, beating myself up, and if I'm being honest, dealing with a lot of anger for the person that I invested in. And the hardest part of that journey wasn't dealing with that service provider. It wasn't even letting go of the situation with the service provider, letting go of that disappointment from all the expectation that I had from that investment. It was realizing, it was accepting that that loss was a result of my avoidance. That loss was a result of my fear of selling. I wanted to avoid it so badly that I didn't care how much money I spent. I just wanted someone else to do it for me. I wanted to put it in a box over here. You take care of that. You do all of that hard work so I can just be in the background. Nobody has to see me. I don't have to sell. I don't have to put myself out there. I'll just do my thing. At the time when I made this investment, I would have told you that I was just too busy. I needed to focus on other areas of the business, or I was responsibly outsourcing. I was doing the responsible CEO boss babe thing, when in reality, all of that was a lie. I was so afraid of what people would think of me when I was selling that I just decided I would avoid it altogether. And I tried to outsource it. The long story short, that fear, that avoidance put me $20,000 into debt in a very inconvenient time of my life. Shortly after I had moved out, got married, started to pour into my marriage. We were taking on so many additional expenses that I wasn't used to paying. We were already living off of ramen. We were already sticking to the produce area in the grocery store. You know what I'm saying? And we still like to do that because, I like some fresh food. I like some good protein. I like some good vegetables and fruits. But we were really sticking to that produce section because at the time, that was where you really saved your money. You're not going down the aisles. You're not getting distracted and getting boxed things, packaged things. We were already really just living conservatively. And now on top of that, I was $20,000 in debt. And like I said, I was just so consumed with what people thought of me that I forgot the truth that my business doesn't exist for me. It exists for the person in front of me. Selling isn't about me. It's about the person in front of me. And the same is true for you. Your fear reveals your focus, and therefore it illuminates your priorities. What is your priority? What matters most to you? And for so many, what really matters most is ourselves. And that leads to inner dialogue and this is inner dialogue when you're thinking about selling. Because for some of you, you aren't actively selling right now. You're just kind of waiting for people to come to you. I've been there. And then for others of you, you're actively selling. There's definitely some tension and resistance. We don't love it. It's not fun. It's the last thing you want to do. But when you are in either of those scenarios, your inner dialogue looks like, what do they think of me? What if they think I'm weird? What if they think I'm being too much or too little? What if they think I don't know what I'm talking about? What if they think that I'm trying too hard? What if they think that I'm not trying hard enough? What if they say no? What does that say about me when I'm selling? What does that say about my expertise and my business? Are we exhausted yet? I'm exhausted. I honestly just didn't love myself even going through that example. But that was my inner dialogue in a season of selling in my business. It was all about me. It was all of this overthinking about myself and what they would think of me and what that made true about me. And it is so easy to convince yourself in those moments that you just care so deeply about the person in front of you, the buyer. You care so much about their experience and making sure that they feel comfortable that it somehow validates all of this overthinking, when in reality, you're not thinking about them. You are thinking about yourself. You've made it about yourself. You've made it your job to manage perception instead of bring value to the marketplace. That is what selling is. Solutions, value, problems fixed, people helped, not how can I look the most amazing and put together and powerful so that people approve of me, people accept me. That is not your job. That is not selling. And it is an exhausting way to live, build your business, and sell underneath your business. It's really hard to sell and feel good about it when all you're thinking about is yourself. So much of your brain power is going towards curating an image. It's going towards molding and shaping yourself a certain way to be accepted, that you are missing out on the actual job at hand, the actual assignment at hand, which is to help this person, not to look good. The other thing too is you're not going to be for everyone. You're going to talk to some people that don't like you. You're going to talk to some people that think you're too much, too little, too quiet, too loud. So what? Is that the worst that can happen? It's not your job to manage perception. That's not a sales strategy. A sales strategy is just bringing solutions, articulating the solutions that you're bringing into the marketplace and showing people how you can help. Fear ultimately feeds on self-focus, your insecurities, comparison, the act of managing perception. It feasts on all of that. It feasts when you're focused on you. But the minute you step back, look away from the mirror, look at the person in front of you, so much of that starts to dissipate. There are people watching this that are asking themselves the question, is it so bad that I'm afraid to sell? Listen, we have grace. I have so much grace. I have so much empathy because I moved through so much fear learning how to sell. So there is an element to this where you have to move through the fear to get to the other side. But the thing is, there is a difference between jitters, nerves, sensations in your body like, oh, I'm sweating, or oh, I'm getting hot, I'm shaking a little bit. That is different. That's a normal human response when you're doing something outside of your comfort zone. And fear. Fear grips you. Fear paralyzes you. Fear delays your destiny. It delays the assignment. It delays your calling because it keeps you in a box thinking about yourself, thinking about the worst case scenarios and what that may or may not say about you. So there is a difference between those two things, and fear negatively, in a very big way, affects your sales process. It affects you, your character, the posture that you show up with in a sales environment. So this conversation does matter for that reason. And don't worry, I'm going to give you the antidote to all of this. To answer the question, ultimately, how do we start overcoming this fear? How do we put it to rest? How do we put it to bed? We're going to get to that. But first, I want to highlight why this matters and what your fear leads to in sales. Because for the majority of you, you are here with good intentions. You're here with a good heart. You're here because you feel called to the work that you're doing. You really do care about people and you have the best intentions. I know I had the best intentions, but when we start to peel back the layers of our fear and what it leads to, it's actually pretty ugly. And it starts to really light a fire under your butt and motivate you to move through that and to put it to bed and to really fixate on what matters so you can do your job, honor your assignment well, which is just to serve. So fear in sales leads to 3 specific things. First, perception management. You are so consumed with what people think about you that you're not actually helping anyone. You're just curating an image. You're just making yourself look a certain way. You're contorting yourself to fit this mold that you think this person wants from you. And the fruit of this is over-explaining, avoidance. Altogether, we're just going to go ahead and avoid selling because we want to maintain this perception and keep it clean and cute. So we aren't going to go get awkward, move through the awkwardness, move through the fear, because we can't look like we don't have it all together, obviously, because we're all supposed to have it all together and know all the things at all times, right? And then exaggeration. This is one of the biggest ones that's at the underbelly of the coaching and personal development industry. When we look at marketing, it's exaggeration. If we're honest, exaggeration, it's just inflating something so much to the point where it's actually not true, which means you are lying. So if you feel compelled to exaggerate, to essentially lie, to stretch the truth, you may have a commitment with managing perception more than you do with serving your people. We can't be so focused on being and looking a certain way for other people that we literally delay the work we're meant to do. It wastes so much time. It is not your job to control what people think about you. It's your job to serve. Bring your expertise and solutions and distribute it into the earth. The second thing that fear in your sales leads to is performance. Your fear actually turns selling into a performance. And it's why it feels completely inauthentic, because you aren't being yourself. You're putting on a show. You're acting like a puppet. You're stepping on a stage and delivering something that isn't actually real because you care so much about pleasing the people in front of you. You care more about that than you do truth, than you do service. And the fruit of this could look like obsessing over your scripting, your sales scripts. Maybe you're using AI for that. Maybe you're in programs for that. Maybe you're copying other people. Again, maybe you're exaggerating and lying. But ultimately, performance requires you to look to other people, other sources to be your strategy because you aren't comfortable. You aren't rooted in your own identity. You're so afraid of what other people think that you won't allow yourself to just be you, to show up and just be real, to be honest. If you don't know the answer to something, just say, I don't actually know the answer to that. I'll look into that for you. But instead we perform, we put on a show, and that becomes exhausting I believe this is one of the reasons why so many entrepreneurs have such a distaste for selling, because they're actually not selling, they're performing. And I understand that there is an element to showing up and putting reps in for a season, and it might not feel like the most authentic thing in that stage, and that's okay. It's okay to not be masterful at something yet. That's actually really normal. We don't just turn into masters at things overnight. So there might be a season where things feel awkward or inauthentic, but it really comes down to your heart posture behind it. Are you showing up eager to get better at selling so that you can ultimately serve? Or are you showing up and trying to look perfect, trying to be what other people want you to be, trying to look like you're this big authority that knows absolutely everything? That's performance. That's not a hunger to learn. So we have to course correct that. We have to realize and acknowledge if we're in these patterns, we have to acknowledge it and we have to course correct. The final one is probably the hardest pill to swallow, and I realize that there's likely no one here who has the intent to do this. But if you are afraid deeply of selling, that can actually lead to manipulation. When you need other people's approval, you slip into manipulation by default. You're so committed to being what they want that you'll do or say anything in order to meet that expectation. And there is manipulation at the center of that. The other thing here too is if you are so fixated on the outcome of the sale because it's so closely tied to your identity and what that says about you, you naturally slip into manipulation because you're more committed to getting the sale than you are actually supporting that person. This is a really tricky one. And again, for each of these, I doubt anyone here is intentionally doing this. It's sneaky. It's something that you slip into. It's a heart posture in your spirit that you have to identify, and you have to be honest with yourself. And that's hard because I've had to do it. I've had to realize, in 2019, I had to realize, first of all, I was so afraid of what people thought that I just wanted to entirely avoid selling altogether. So paralysis, delay. And then there is a season where I was so afraid of what people thought of me that I was performing. I was managing perception. I was curating an image versus distributing value. The fruit of manipulation looks like things like people pleasing, applying pressure, dishonesty. So there's a lot of overlap in the fruit here. But if you recognize any of that fruit in your life, specifically in your sales process, my encouragement is to just dig deeper and to acknowledge which of those patterns you may be falling into so we can course correct. I promised you that we would get to the good part, and that is the antidote. Like, what's the solution to this? Because if you're afraid of selling, you likely want to fix that, right? We've acknowledged what that fear is often rooted in, which is a hyperfixation on ourselves. We've also really unpacked that this is a big deal. This can be sneaky and it can have big, big ramifications in the way that you're showing up, conducting yourself, conducting business. And of course, it's going to delay the work you're called to do. So there's a lot of clarity on that component now. But now what? What do I do? How do I start removing this from my life? The good news, this is actually really easy. The antidote to fear is dethroning yourself. Stop performing. Stop managing perception. Stop thinking so much about yourself. When you're so consumed with what people think about you, it distracts you from the work you're here to do, the money you're here to make, and the people that you are called to serve. When your priority is perception, you have to perform. You can't stop performing. But when your priority is service, You sell with arms wide open and conviction in your stomach because you are committed to the assignment. You are so committed to bringing value. You are so committed to distributing your expertise, your service into the earth that you could care less about what people think of you. You could care less if they think that you're too much, too little, too loud, too quiet. All you care about is the assignment in front of you. All you care about is selling to serve. All you care about is helping people. So there's no delay. There's no avoidance. There's no overthinking because it's not about you. It was never about you. It's about the person in front of you. The people that you're called to serve are waiting for you to choose them over your fear, for you to bring solutions instead of avoidance, for you to bring value instead of self-obsession and absorption. So my challenge to you is this: stop thinking about yourself when you're selling. Start thinking about the person in front of you. Become so fixated on them, not what they think of you, but what they need, what they desire, what they dream of, what they're struggling with, what they think of when they wake up in the morning, when they put their head on their pillow at night. What is consuming their thoughts that you can help with? And when you think about that, selling is simply serving, and there's nothing to be afraid of in that. God, I need to eat.